Guys, here we are at day number 5. Going to be using the Nacet as usual, same gear. Vetiver MdC, Martin de Candre, Piccolo Special Edition, got it from Connaught Shaving, Fatip, and this has the open comb base plate. Semogue Owner's Club boar brush. It's been soaking. Taj resin, I assume, handle. So we'll put it back in the water. Yesterday I tried coming at the soap with a more dry brush than I almost ever use, because I was curious how that might change the lather. The first couple of uses of this month, the MdC overflowed as I was building the lather, quite a bit. I was curious if a drier brush would change that, and it did. What overflowed was much more dry, and so it wasn't dripping. It wasn't as much of a mess. And so if you like this soap, there's some change that you could do if you wanted less of a drippy mess. I kind of like the drippy mess a little bit because I would kind of wipe it and then use it kind of as a pre-shave. Now, I went to an extreme. I got the brush really wet yesterday, and I went to the extreme of squeezing it out, not super firm, not to damage any bristles, but just a gentle squeeze to just get out the water. I'm not going to go any drier than that myself. So now let's swing the other way. Let's come at it with a really wet brush. See what happens. Playing around here, right? Since we're using this soap all month long. I am very happy that I am going to discover how many uses this soap is going to give. But I'm disappointed in the lather that I'm getting. It's a nice soap, but there are just so many better soaps, and it is a renowned soap. A lot of people like it. Some people say it's overrated. I'm not going to say that yet, because if in fact I get tons of uses out of this expensive tub of soap, then it could be a good value for the money. So we'll leave it at that. Our count on the blade is going here. 300 dots are on the blade envelope, and we're at 307 today. So we'll do a 30-second load. I'll show you the blade as well. We'll do our 30-second load with a really wet brush. Just see what happens. My camera doesn't seem to focus while in video mode very well. See, if I bring this up here, then even if I tap the screen to say, hey machine, focus on that, then say it doesn't help. So I'll have to play around with the settings and stuff and see if I can get a better, but hopefully you can see there, hopefully the resolution's strong enough. They're the same 3 dots that have been with on the Nacet kind of the whole time. And then when assembled, thanks to use number about 225, you'll be able to see on one of the corners right here the extra deflection because of the bent blade that we've been able to see now for about 80 shaves. So let's check the alignment. Okay, I do need to tweak it a little bit. And I think we are, open up. There we go. All right. So I will, something I have learned about MdC, it is a hard soap, but you don't need to pre-soak it at all. You don't need to bloom it. It loads up really easy without a problem. Hey, let's write that down in my little, I have my little book here. I'm writing down the lessons that I've learned. So I'll have them all in kind of one place. So far, we have learned that the lather itself works fine if you add too much water to it. It can look elastic and look really nice. It won't feel luxurious, but it will provide decent slickness for your face. It'll feel good on your face. I learned that when I make it thick enough, aka dry enough to have kind of a slick, slightly luxurious feel, then it's too dry when I get it on my face and I have to add more water. And the last thing I have learned before today is that if I go with a dry brush load or my normal lightly wet brush, I still end up with the same lather. So either way, we'll get to the same place. So pretty cool. And so now I'm going to add no need to pre-bloom or soak. All right, something else during the break that I did was get my face wet, and I have a slight change in my routine. This sink is so noisy. I've been talking about doing something, and I've taken a soup bowl and put it down in the sink, and it is now full of water. And so when I need to rinse my razor, clear off my fingertips, that sort of thing, I'll use that bowl water instead of having to turn on the faucet. Maybe that'll limit the noise that you hear and or the number of times I have to pause the video. So let's give that a shot. All right. Oh, and my post-shave, as always during August, is Soap Commander Integrity Unscented, and it is the menthol-free version. I don't like menthol. Okay, face is wet, so now let us wet. Let's just go the extreme. Let's come at this soap with a really wet brush. Why not? I'm just going to lift the brush out. Okay, that's a ton of water. All right, let's just give it a couple of shakes. Let's leave it at that. Probably going to be a big, huge mess here. All right. All right. So 30-second load, and we'll start at 35. Go to 55 then. And when I press down on the brush, that starts to release some of that water. We kind of expected it to be messy, and that's all right. And that's 55. 30 to 55. Oh, we need to go 10 more seconds. So I think that's roughly about right. Well, you saw, just like going drier has less of a mess here, looks like going wetter. All right, so I'm gonna take some of this, put that in my shave bowl. Then I'm gonna take the rest of this, because it is just going to go down the drain. One day's growth is what we're working on here. All right, let me pause you while I clean all this up. And here we go. Let's mix the lather up. 5 or 6 teaspoons is often what I have to add. I think a lot of the water has left the brush during the loading process, so I don't think I'm coming into this with more water than usual. Go ahead and start adding. Since we know we're going to use quite a bit, let's just put in 2 teaspoons first. I'm curious if the really wet load caused it to not pick up as much soap. Okay, once that seems reasonably incorporated. Let's put in another 2. Not bad. Let's go just a little wetter. Hey, using the bowl there. With 1 more teaspoon, so now we've got 5 total. One nice thing about using the same soap, you can really dial it in. After a while, you also get a natural sense about, yeah, I need more water. You don't even have to use the syringe necessarily, or at least pay attention to the numbers, because you just kind of have an idea what you're looking for. The consistency, that sort of thing. So let's just use this. And I'm going to rinse my face off. All right. Load up the brush. Now, anytime you see me pressing down like this, I am not pressing down very much. The splay is maybe flexing 25%. My main goal here is to push the lather into the knot. I'm never doing a pumping action where it would be a big splay. I don't think that's good for brushes, so I don't do it. Excuse me. Anytime I agitate lather, it's through either swirling back and forth or pushing it down from the sides, and I'm again not getting a lot of flex when I do that. Maybe if I slowed down, it wouldn't have a tendency to fly off so easy. Just generating an excess of lather. Pretty sure I probably need to add a little bit of water to the brush here. And all this messy lather is why I don't like face lathering. The good wet stuff is just the first stuff to fly off. All right, well, we've got 6 total teaspoons of water in the lather and a shirt full of suds. All right. For me, on my face with the grain is from top to bottom. On my cheeks, my neck starts to get weird and kind of goes sideways, but my face is pretty normal. There's some people who their growth, it goes from their mouth toward their jowls or ear or something like that, and so for them a with the grain is going to be from that direction, and so a north-south type thing is not going to be with the grain for them. I think I kind of regularly hear it phrased. I think it's a kind of a misconception the way people say, I'm going to do a with the grain shave, and then they do it north to south. It would be easy for a new person to misunderstand that. So I like to clarify it every once in a while. Well, I'm enjoying having this bowl. It's convenient not to have to turn on the water all the time. All right, let's rinse my face. So yeah, I think I'd see this as a structure, a lather that soap that produces a lather that is of fairly high structure. It puffs up and then puffs up so much on your face that slings itself off. Don't like having my shirt be quite this messy. Of course, next time I could help that by adding more water to the soap kind of from the beginning. There we go. So yeah, it's looking like I'm easily going to have enough lather to do the job here, so it doesn't seem like the really wet load changed very much at all. Nice, easy touch. You can reach in and grab a bit of lather. Do another pass right here in my tricky spot. Even hit it again if you want. That's the benefit of a good light touch, is repeated shaving over certain areas often is just not as much of a problem. And let's rinse this second pass off. All right. Load the brush again. If you leave more water on your face after a rinse, then sometimes that can help a lather that's being a little too thick or dry on you. So that you can see this is a different consistency because of that water I just left on my face. And again, we've got 3 or 4 passes still left here. So there wasn't too much difference in the wet load versus the dry load, as it turns out. How about that? Cross grain on the cheeks. Couple things you can do to tighten up your cheeks and face. Obviously, you can inflate your cheeks. You can, if you're shaving over here, for instance, you can take this shoulder, move it back, take your chin, move it up this way, and that kind of tightens up that area. That also helps to tighten up your neck area too. So different ways you can often, those will often end in a better shave for you, a closer shave, and sometimes help to prevent nicks. Third pass now, so I'm going to do this pass right here from down here to up there, and I'll go ahead and do it again with a little bit of touch up lather right here. And there we go. It's a serviceable, slick soap. Right now, as my hands are moving around on my face, they're wet. They have a little bit of lather on them, and it does feel nice and slick. So it performs and it works. It's just not it's not luxurious, especially when you consider a lot of the other bases that we have going on now over the last several years. However, it looks like the strength it's got going for it, it's a very concentrated soap, so you're probably not going to use much per time. And I need to weigh it. Man, I keep forgetting to weigh it. So the strength it may offer, in a sense, kind of like Prix de Provence number 63. I did some usage testing on that one. I'm not done quite yet with it. Its performance was similar to this, where it wasn't as creamy, you know, but it was serviceable. It was inexpensive when you considered the usages that you were going to be able to get from the product. Now, with the number 63, I loved the scent, that warm, spicy. That's a big win for me. And then the economy, since it's given you so many shaves, the cost factor is a real nice value there. And if vegan soap is important to you, that could be a value as well. So like I showed you, I've got tons of lather, 3-4 passes easy. Definitely can reduce that load time. 6 teaspoons looks like the water added, and I think I pretty much dialed it in pretty well in terms of where I like the lather to be. Maybe just a touch wetter to prevent all that poof from flying around everywhere. But that could also be helped if I started reducing and didn't quite have as much lather on that I was working with. That could help as well. So, wow. Got the same lather, whether I used a lightly wet brush, my typical brush, whether I used a almost dry brush, a wrung out brush, or if I used a pretty soaking wet brush. Same lather. So that's pretty cool, flexible, works. You don't have to, you know, try to figure out how to come at it. You know, anybody who comes at this soap with a brush anywhere in that range is going to be able to get a good lather from it. So that's pretty cool to know. And why don't we go ahead and put on our Soap Commander Balm. Something a little bit less than a dime-sized amount seems to be what makes my face happy. I started off using the Tuscany Aftershave Splash, but it's a limited / discontinued sterling product. And I found that half an hour later, after the shave, the Tuscany had been totally overwhelmed by the kind of fresh, piercing vetiver scent of this MdC. So then I used the Soap Commander that day on day 1. So I am using the Soap Commander for each time, fulfilling the Austere August requirement. But I didn't want to use up my nice Tuscany if it was going to be overwhelmed and kind of nulled out. All right, well, I'm happy with the bowl that I put in the sink here. I was able to clean my fingers and the razor pretty easily without having to worry about turn on the faucet, that sort of thing. So I think I'll probably keep doing that. Closeness of the shave. Yep. Pretty good. Just, you know, some length on several tips there. And that's pretty standard for such a well-used blade. So now, this is number 307. How about that? Heading to 310, a little decade there. It's fun playing around with MdC. I'm glad I'll be able to provide some good information on different ways of loading it, you know, that sort of thing. I'm learning some things. What could we try next time? I don't really think that trying a wetness of brush prior to loading, you know, in between my normal lightly wet and the soaking, since both produce pretty much the same thing, I don't think something in between is going to give me anything different. So maybe I will start to refine the load time. Use my normal lightly wet type of saturation for the brush, and maybe we'll do 20 seconds next time, maybe even 15, and see how low we can go to get that optimal load where we aren't washing quite as many passes of lather down the drain. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. We are good. My face has been feeling good with this balm during the course of the day. I have oily skin, and I rarely experience any kind of dry feeling after the shave. I do experience just a little bit with this soap, and so I can see how other folks that have really dry skin could decide to avoid this soap. But I think your average person is going to be fine as long as they use a balm, and maybe fine in general with an alcohol splash. So I don't think an average type skinned person should shy away from it because of any drying purposes. So there we go as far as that. All right, folks. We'll see you next time. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I sure hope there's been something in this video that's going to help you out. Good night.